Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Hotel Dropouts. Today I will be speaking alone again, as this is more of an impromptu episode, and we had quite some fun last time covering the Charlie Cook conspiracies. So I thought it'd be interesting to wrap things up and present the conspiracy theory that we presented last week, i.e., the shot didn't come from the front, to just expand a bit further on it, and just to clarify that I don't believe this theory any more so than I believe, than unfortunately, the official narrative. So take it with a grain of salt. This is just all for good fun. Honestly, we don't know what's happening. It's so confusing, and quite frankly, I'm shocked at how fast public interest died down after after the assassination. I think it peaked about 1 week in. We have tons of content creators pushing out different theories, going on shows, and then you have all these gun troopers and former military people coming onto different shows to talk about their expertise, and then mainly to refute the idea that the shot was performed by a 30-06 bullet. Now, in any case, I thought it'd be fun to recap the events and then get into the conspiracy theory that I saw presented by Jason Goodman, who is a VFX artist. So I thought it's kind of interesting. And finally, we will cover some weird stuff, like sort of burning questions that we've still not really addressed. So if you like our content, you can also check us out on Spotify. Subscribe, like all the good stuff, as you know. And we will begin. Okay, so as a quick recap, here are some of the official statements made by the FBI, led by our led by none other than our precious Cash Patel. So, according to their timeline, Tyler Robinson, the alleged shooter of Charlie Kirk, arrived at around 8:30 on the campus wearing a marine shirt and light-colored shorts. Then the next time they saw him was around 11:50. So supposedly between 8 and 11, he's just been in the campus doing stuff. Well, we're not so sure. But what we do know that the next time we saw him, he had already changed into the long sleeved black shirt, with the American flag and the eagle, as well as wearing jeans. So around 11:50, it was alleged that Tyler crossed the parking lot, entering the pedestrian tunnel whilst limping a little bit. So this is where I think the FBI proposed the theory that he had the rifle on his inside his trousers, which is it's kind of weird. Like I still feel like the jeans are too small, they're too tight to conceal any hunting rifle. In any case, around 12:02, Tyler crossed from the north side of the building to the south side to gain access to that main building leading up to the roof. And apparently, there's a direct access. You just take the staircase. So around 12:15, they caught him climbing the stairs. This is when I think we've all seen that footage, right? Like it's him in wearing glasses and a baseball cap, wearing long sleeved shirt with the jeans. So at that point, I think I haven't seen a video of that footage. I've only ever seen images. So supposedly, if he has the rifle concealed, it would be quite awkward to climb stairs, wouldn't it? In any case, around 12:17, he hopped over a short wall on the roof in order to get into position. So 12:22, he managed to run across the roof, get into the prone position. And if you've ever seen sort of the angle that he was looking at, I could describe it. It's a downward slope about 10 degrees, and about 10 degrees to the right would have been the shot. So they call it a 10-10. And it's quite a bit of an awkward shot because from his angle, from his vantage point, the tent where Charlie Kirk was sitting under would have covered a part of his head, right? It would have not concealed, but it would have been in the way. And there is another building, a corner of a building that sort of sticks out. So it's a bit awkward, like from that angle that he was shooting. There is a building that's in the way, so you would have had to aimed a bit to the right. Then, allegedly at 12:23, he fired the shot. Okay. Then the famous video clip of him, a CCTV footage of him running across the roof. He was dropping down. As he allegedly had a black bag or some, which we later found out could have been the towel, or where he has the rifle. And so he jumped down, but I don't think I saw him tossing the rifle down when he jumped down. I think he laid it down on the edge of the roof, so I'm not really sure what happened there. It's definitely not possible for the rifle to be inside his trousers, because the FBI alleged that he had disassembled the gun somehow, because there was a screwdriver that they found on the roof. So he then crossed Campus Drive and then he ran across the street. And this is where, like, there were a lot of other conspiracy theories. There were people claiming that the footage had been tampered with because the shadow disappeared at some point. I watched the clip frame by frame, even though it's a compressed video. I didn't observe that. The only part where they claimed that the shadow disappeared was when he arrived to near the edge of the roof, where the tiles were very white. So what we have is clipping, right? It's overexposed, and so it would make sense that you can't see much, because that whole part of the footage is overexposed. Then people were questioning as to why the pedestrian scene in that clip didn't seem so bothered. They were walking about in a very relaxed manner. At some point, somebody disappeared behind a tree. I don't know if we have enough information how the topology is around that area. It is perfectly possible that the pedestrian simply walked in, turned right in a direction where they would be occluded by the tree, so thus seemingly disappearing. In any case, at that point, Tyler Robinson had escaped, has fled, and this is the time where he left a towel wrapping the Mauser rifle and left it in the woods. The next time we saw him on a CCTV was around 6:38 p.m., where he was seen at a Dairy Queen wearing red shirt and jeans. So he he did a partial change. He looked kind of cute in that footage, though, not gonna lie. In any case, I think this is where we're supposed to think that, anywhere between him fleeing the scene, then running to the Dairy Queen, that he had sent those Discord messages, or maybe it's afterwards. Maybe it's after the Dairy Queen. We're not sure, because there were no timestamps released from the Discord messages. Okay, so that is pretty much the recap. So some key points that were always kind of iffy. People were always find it difficult to believe was one, that he managed to use a 30-06 bullet that was fired from a Mauser rifle that was from the World War One era, I think, or World War Two, not sure, but it's a powerful bolt action rifle. So people rightfully are confused when the shot into the neck only left Charlie Kirk with a wound. It was quite big, but it was not what we expect. You would have expected that with such power, the neck would be severed in the worst case. Then main sort of question number two is, where would he have hid the rifle? Because that rifle is not easy to disassemble. It's not easy. You'll need actual tooling. A simple screwdriver was not enough. And then question three was that was with quite the main issue people have. The number three would be all the Discord messages that were sent, that so conveniently made it seem like he was just confessing to all the question marks that investigation has. And plus, people didn't believe that Gen Z kids would talk in the same manner, that he used words like retrieve a squad car. I'm not sure what the other ones are, but my love, I think that was kind of weird. But then it's Utah, okay? If there's any weird place in the United States, I would point to Utah. Honestly, it's the whole state has a weird vibe. I was there once, and it feels off. Okay, now the conspiracy theory that we alleged last a couple weeks ago, I think, was the fact that um, by looking at the footage carefully, we were able to see some blood splatter going on behind the neck. But even then, it could be compression, and we don't really know how the bullet has what exactly where the pathing of the bullet once it enters the medium, which is in this case it's Charlie Kirk's neck. As we see that if you go online, you look at any of the ballistic gels, you look at test firings, when the bullet enters the medium, it just starts tumbling around because literally rolling, right? It's already collided with something, so it's lost its forward momentum. I'm not sure if that's the right way to call it, but when it's traveling in the air unimpeded, of course it flies, it spins, right? So it maintains that angle. But once it hits something, it enters the flesh and it sort of just it tumbles around, especially if it hits any kind of hard surfaces like bone. It would shatter into pieces, and then it's a whole mess. Okay, so I stumbled across a somewhat conspiracy-esque channel called Redacted. I don't know if they lean on the left or the right. It's the first time I saw the channel, but Jason Goodman was on there as a VFX artist, as I mentioned. I don't know what was he. Did he work on one of the Batman or Superman movies? Anyway, so this is some guy who's going to come in at the with the angle on a technology side, right? He's not going to be in there talking about ballistics, but he investigated a couple of video clips, and then using his skill as a VFX artist or VFX supervisor, he was able to come up with some really interesting findings. Again, a conspiracy theory at this point because we have no proof, don't know what happened. So he got onto the show that he alleges that from he got some footage from a ex-marine sniper, I think by the name of Zed Boykin, as well as some other sources, and it was a 2K video. Sorry, it was a 1080p, I think. So it was and it was in the format of a high 10 MPEG at 20 FPS. So do I mean MP4? In any case, so it's a compressed video, right? Videos don't typically the videos that you shoot with your phone would come off as 30 FPS if this is an iPhone. But most smartphones actually record at 30 FPS. You can set it to 60. Cinematic cameras, in cinema, we're comfortable with 24 frames a second, right? But here's the interesting part: a professional camera can record to upwards of 240 frames a second, although at a much lower resolution, so 1080. Jason Goodman theorizes that the video has been compressed down from 240 frames a second because he received one that was formatted at 20 FPS, and then days later he got another one that was formatted at 30 frames a second. So he thought both videos must have been re-exported out from recompressed from the original source of 20 FPS. So when he looked into the footage frame by frame, around where the gruesome part, right, when the bullet actually entered Charlie's neck, he was able to find a trail of these white dots, which he alleges to be the bullet. And because he had the 20 frames a second video as well as the 30 frames a second video, he was able to kind of like plot out that there seems to be a bullet trail, right? Like we see on the video clip that there is a bullet that is kind of just flying towards Charlie's neck from behind. So this is a video that's sort of from not the same one that I saw. I think not the same one that's circulating around the internet. The most common one that people saw was the one shot from the front. Um, but this video clip is shot from the side, so you actually see the left hand side of Charlie Kirk, and we see a distinct, well, not distinct, but it's like a trail of bullets that we could that you see this white dot kind of appear at different parts of the frames, and by combining the 20 frames a second and 30 frames a second video, he plotted out the trajectories. So he overlaid the images, right? So we see and then so we see the dots traveling in a line, and he alleges that by using a unit per frame, that he was able to derive a velocity of 500 feet a second. So I'm not exactly sure on this math, but in any case, just leave it as is. And that this velocity of bullet matches an existing air pistol called Bintac, Bintac, M50 pistol. So this is an air pistol, right? It's a pistol that fires using compressed air, I think. So first of all, I'm kind of shocked. I didn't know air pistols can be that powerful, but yeah, I suppose it is possible. Now, in the video clip that he was showing, he also mentioned that, hey, he sort of contradicts himself temporarily as he said, hey, looking at this other frame, why does it appear that there's another dot that would have implied that the bullet was traveling backwards? And then his argument was that this is a common compression artifact that could happen when you have an incredibly fast moving object that creates this high contrasting feature in all the pixels that are moving. It briefly talked about how compression works by basically when you have a video, when you film yourself doing something, the background is not moving. So the video clip can actually save on space. The could save on memory, could save on space by not recording any changes in those pixels, and because of and precisely because of the compression method, that such an artifact could happen. So he sort of turns this around and said that instead of this contradicting that the dot is a flying bullet, it more so affirms the idea that this is indeed a very fast moving object. So he turns it around and kind of proves his own point, which is kind of genius. But in any case, he said that another thing that contradicts his potential theory is that people have done these what's it called, a crack and boom analysis. So this is when you have multiple videos that are shot from different angle, that there is the crack of the gun firing, and then the boom of the bullet breaking the sound barrier. By analyzing these different videos, it was possible to sort of triangulate the location, and then I don't know if it matches the official narrative or not, but Jason's Jason Goodman's his theory is that it is possible to have a decoy shot going off somewhere else. So he brought up that there is a technology where you can have digital triggers, which is kind of insane. I guess like it is possible, but I think more so it's more likely that you just have someone else literally in the distance firing off a blank, or maybe firing off into a different into the air or something. Um, I feel like if we're going full conspiracy, if this is a plotted assassination, then whoever's behind it would have thought of a lot of these contingencies, would have thought of a lot of these holes in their assassination that they should have covered up. Now, he Jason Goodman kind of concludes all this by pointing out that they have footage of these TPUSA, so that's Turning Point USA, the organization that Charlie founded, that his staffer very quickly disassembled the cameras that were on that were in the tent, and then specifically there's one that's directly behind Charlie Kirk that would have captured everything, and that was a 4K camera. And then the staffer immediately took out the SD card, uh, and allegedly handed it over to investigation to the FBI. So he said that was kind of sus. So combining all that in a very quick summary, Jason Goodman is alleging that the gunshot came from behind Charlie, um, and likely in the pedestrian tunnel. So like behind the tent that Charlie was sitting is actually a pedestrian tunnel. So maybe the gunshot came from somewhere around there, fired using an air pistol that has a much lower muzzle velocity as well as a much smaller caliber bullet, which then could explain why why the bullet from the coroners. I think the coroner came out with a report saying that the bullet had destroyed so if you look at the vertebrae, they mentioned from C2 to C2, C4, C5, C6. So the bullet could have destroyed all those vertebrae, and then one of the main fragments were found near the T1 thoracic vertebrae. um, I don't know if they actually found the other pieces, if there's any more information to that. So Jason basically is saying that the bullet came from behind, shot Charlie in the back of the neck, hit the base of the skull, then deflected down, so it left a trail of destruction that runs down the spine. And then eventually you have bullet fragments exploding, going everywhere, one of which would have exposed the jugular, which is the main gaping, gashing wound that we saw. And then a main fragment was then found near the thoracic vertebrae, which is kind of like further down the spine, close to the shoulder blades, I believe. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of this. This is all very this is all very weird. Like I said, we cannot really reliably predict the pathing of a bullet once it enters the enters a medium. But it does this conspiracy theory. I hate to say it, like I feel like this takes away a lot of the validity. But at this point, you can't prove it, so I'll call it that. It just feels quite convincing in the sense that it answers a lot of the question is specifically to do with the trail of destruction of how the bullet could have pathed around the interior of Charlie's neck, and the fact that this was not a 30-06 bullet, because apparently, according to the coroner, they mentioned the bullet but they didn't specify that this is a 30-06 bullet. And I would gather as much, because the bullet is already fragmented. It's practically impossible to determine that. So all this kind of sends shiver down my spine. So I just feel like, why is why why is everything so unclear, and why has people moved on so fast? The same thing with the assassin that tried to take Donald Trump's life. I've already forgotten his name. This is how fast we moved on. Was it Thomas Cook or something? That's a young guy. No digital trail, right? No digital trail. Appeared in a BlackRock commercial at some point, and we're just supposed to believe that he was just a weirdo that just manages to get into a vantage point, try to shoot Donald Trump, and then people just seem to be not so interested in it anymore. Like once that whole thing is over, even Donald Trump, even Magasphere, are not as interested. It's something that just died down. And quite frankly, for me, the most terrifying thing is how quickly public interest has dissipated surrounding Charlie Kirk's assassination. Like it's been less than, I think it's been 3 weeks, hasn't it? And it's just over. Like the biggest YouTubers out there, the biggest TikTokers or whoever, the content creators, no longer is interested in the subject. You still have some people that are trying to kind of cling onto the clout, I guess myself included. But anyway, it's just from an outsider's point of view. My goodness, if this happened in my country, right, it would have sent shockwaves to into the in into the public. It would have been such a shocking event that I think news would have gone on for at least 2 months, or maybe 3 months. Yeah, that's a bit stretching it, but 2 months at least. People would just be like, "What the hell is happening? We need more answers." Right? I fear that, either the Americans have gotten used to the incompetence of Kash Patel's FBI, or the fact that they just feel like, we're not going to get the real answers anyway, because this is leaning against the backdrop of, the Epstein files that had just happened, and perhaps the more recent event of Sean Diddy getting 15 months in prison, I believe, for all his alleged crimes, which is, again, that's crazy. I feel like as long as you have money, you kind of get away with anything. Why is it always kids? Like, is there a religious influence behind this? Like, why is it always going after children? Oh, that's weird. Anyway, that's topic for another episode. So, I feel like there's still some burning questions for me, and I just feel like these are some of the weird stuff that I find. Okay, first of all, there were so many cameras that were on the scene. Like, there were so many people filming. Why is it that it's the same couple of clips that we keep seeing? I feel like there would have been more. Maybe I should have done a bit more digging, but I don't know. I feel like, was there a subpoena? Was there did law enforcement, retrieve everything they could? Did they send out warning signs? Did they send out like a written notice saying that you're not supposed to distribute this content? Or maybe that it's the platforms that have taken them down, and it's only the ones that were sent out earlier in the days, early enough during the event that they didn't have the time to respond. um, I kind of do believe that, because with Luigi, we saw how fast, oh my God, we saw how fast Reddit was able to delete all of his posts surrounding, I think it was about his injury, and the with his the tailbone, his spine. Um, so it is entirely possible that whatever you put on the internet, could be censored out. But then again, we still have TikTok, don't we? So there's still an avenue there, like that's outside the purview of American jurisdiction. Could put stuff on there, and I see no reason why the CCP would censor that, seeing it benefits them to show perhaps more chaos in the West. Now, there were, like I mentioned earlier, there were three TPUSA's high quality 4K cameras that were streaming. Was it streaming? I'm not sure, but there were three other cameras, and all of them have been handed over to the FBI, and there were no copies. The SD card was pulled out as just handed over. I find that crazy. Like, how is it that you don't have copies? Or maybe there's a portion of the footage in temporary memory somehow. It's just so convenient. So I guess they're very, you can still argue that the staff were very professional, so they did manage to contain that information. Um, it is still unclear that the bullet is 30-06. So that's the main issue, that so far the FBI hasn't been able to refute the bullet fragmented within the body, so I guess it's impossible to say. Another weird thing is that the Dairy Queen that Tyler Robinson appeared at um very quickly shut down, and it was just the whole store was cleared out within 2 days apparently. And I'm wondering, like, is there something nefarious going on, or is it perhaps that Dairy Queen saw what happened to the McDonald's that Luigi visited, or where Luigi was apprehended, got so many negative reviews that they thought, you know what, this is over. Let's bandage the wound as as soon as possible. It's a loss. Like, deal with it. So I guess, you could argue that it's just a corporate decision, but it's also likely that you could argue that there's some kind of some kind of nefarious cabal behind it that's organizing this shutdown. Anyway, don't put too much thought into it. Um, Another weird stuff was apparently that people mentioned how fast the crime scene was sort of touched up, like the grass behind where Charlie Kirk sat was very quickly paved over with cement. I have no sources confirming all this. This is just hearsay. So again, I'm not really sure, but what exactly is the appropriate amount of time to touch up the crime scene? I'm not sure. Maybe like could you have left the scene as it is for like weeks, or maybe is it because maybe it's because the FBI would confirm that hey, the investigation is over, so nothing else to see. The Utah police was allegedly informed to stop investigating. Again, no proof of that, no sources on that. It's just hearsay. I'm not sure, but the conspiracy argument is that they they didn't want anyone looking into it. The whole crime scene was kind of trampled. It was kind of messed up as well. They didn't want any bad or sort of misleading information coming out, so they very quickly sorted out the scene, touched up, repaved everything. It's as good as new. Um, the the only thing that they I don't know if they uh rearranged the pebbles on the roof because there was one photograph of where Tyler Robinson supposedly was perched up or was in the prone position on the roof. So you do see some indents, but I think someone came out and pointed out that how is it possible that he basically bolted after the shot? Yeah, he bolted after the shot, and somehow we don't see the correct kind of indent given the density of all the pebbles there. So it's like the indents are all very superficial. I'm not sure. I didn't look too much into it. It is kind of weird, but whatever. And still, right now, I think a lot of people are confused that the fact that we don't have too many, we don't have any of Tyler Robinson's friends coming out to say anything. His supposed boyfriend slash girlfriend, Lance Twiggs, had gone into witness protection, so he's gone. The crazy man that was on site, you know, acting kind of like a decoy, George Zinn, who apparently has a very interesting background, that he's been to many of these political events in the past. Apparently, he was there during the Boston Marathon bombing. Was conveniently arrested for having child pornography on his phone, so he's indisposed. It's impossible to interview him again. I'm not too this doesn't do too much to me. It seems like it is entirely possible that this is just a crazy man. It is entirely possible that Lance is just fully cooperating with investigation and just not saying a word. I believe the families are not saying anything as well. And it's just the lull, the quietness surrounding this entire event is very sus, and I can sympathize with people that think that, but again, for me, that's not enough. I feel like it doesn't necessarily suggest anything. The lack of events doesn't always point towards something nefarious. Now, there were some claims that no autopsy was being performed, but apparently that's been refuted. So it is. We're still waiting on the results. I believe that there's so many eyes on the case, so they're going to try and be very careful about this. And just a couple days ago, I believe it was the second hearing of Tyler Robinson in court, where I don't know the specific terminology, but basically, both the defense and prosecution um, said to the judge that there's just a plethora, there's an overwhelming amount of evidence that they need more time um, to go over, and then they want to reconvene and then do another meeting again. So I'm not sure what that was all about. I'm not too certain about the American judicial system. What I do know is that apparently, for you need a special judge to defend against capital punishment. So if there's a death penalty that the prosecution is seeking, not any lawyer can step up. You need to be somebody who's certified in defending against that. And I believe it was also on Redacted that there was this woman, this lady, came out and said that she tried to facilitate finding Tyler Robinson a defense team, because Tyler Robinson, in his official statement, has stated that he doesn't have the money to hire a proper legal team. So I'm not sure what eventually happened to that, because the woman alleged that only the state prosecutor in this case in Utah was able to assign a defense attorney for Mr. Robinson. So, which, that's terrible, because it would seem like the prosecution is picking their own opponents. Now, I don't know if there's any more credence to that story, because it seems that the lady that is the main representation of Tyler Robinson, apparently they're very expensive. I don't have too much information on that, so we're still gonna wait on that. I would not be surprised if this thing drags on for as long as it has. Seeing what has happened to Luigi, the whole thing just takes so bloody long. And then you have these content creators, the law tubers, coming out to say that, they could possibly get away on a on some kind of malfeasance or malpractice, that some kind of stupidity in the process of collecting evidence would potentially lead to them walking scot-free. Again, this is all just noises. I think at the end of the day, I'm still just first of all, I just feel like, my goodness, the United States is such a violent place, and of all places for this to happen, Utah is the most. Yeah, I believe it's Far Cry 4, the fourth the fourth series of Far Cry. The game took place in a fictional American town that's evangelical and very cultish. Um, and then the whole story follows you trying to find out the plot of this evangelical group that wants to have wants to usher in a Noah's Ark kind of a Noah's Ark kind of event, that they're going to blow everything up and then they're going to start anew, right? Right now, it feels very much like that video game, that you feel like there's nothing you can trust, and there's just everything just seems like there's more behind what appears on the surface. So I don't know. I have a lot of I have a lot of sympathies for Charlie Kirk's family, but then seeing his wife appearing at the memorial, appearing on different podcasts after the fact, she seemed to be holding up very well. It's almost unbelievable. But I guess, they just have to carry on. You could say that maybe it's faith that's keeping her going. Apparently she had met Trump before she met Charlie, and that she'd worked in politics even before then. So again, fucking weird. And then, of course, the main conspiracy now is that Charlie Cook was about to go up against the ADL, the Anti Defamation League, which is a pro-Israel agency that would basically call you out for anti-Semitism should you ever say anything bad about Israel or Gaza. So there are rumors that Charlie was kind of upset and had enough of basically kissing up to the asses of his patrons, and he's tired of speaking on behalf of Israel, and he's just tired of it. That allegedly he had sent a letter or an email to his Jewish sponsors that he was going to stop, and that he was eventually going to bring on Candace Owens, who had, another right wing voice who had outwardly spoken critically of Israel, and that he was going to bring her onto the show. And supposedly that's the reason why they decided to take him out, and that's why it was done so in such it was done in a rush. Like it was not not enough planning had gone into this whole assassination, and thus the plot holes, and thus the whole messy investigation. I don't know what to think of that. I don't know if he was important enough to assassinate. But upon his disappearance, upon his early retirement, should I say, we saw that news had come out that Bibi Netanyahu, the whole Jewish cabal at this point, I guess you could call them that, are paying influencers $7,000 a post to speak in favor of Israel. And then just days ago, there was a footage of a meeting between Bibi Netanyahu and a bunch of influencers talking about how they should control the narrative. And then I think Netanyahu famously said that some of these right-wing voices that are pro-Palestine, they call them the woke Reich, uh, alluding to Nazism. Again, that's kind of crazy. I guess you could make the argument that now that the mouthpiece that was Charlie Kirk has disappeared, Israel will need new mouthpieces, and thus like this is all looking very sus. It's as if he's replacing the hole that Charlie Kirk filled. Um, I don't know how important it is to get the young sort of Gen Z on board with with the Israeli cause, because at this point it's kind of lost, right? Like, why are you still trying? It's not going to work. The young very apparently and very outwardly support Palestine, a good majority of them. So I don't know. I guess it's still an ongoing effort. I don't know where this is going to take us. And again, I am just frustrated at how this had all concluded. It's only been 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and I guess this is how fast we move on from assassinations nowadays. My goodness. I guess yeah, that's the fact. It has become a fact of life for a lot of Americans, and this is sort of the world that we live in now. Yeah, it's just so crazy that mere decades ago, if anything like this were to happen, you would not have found out about it if you're from the other part, from the other side of the planet. Like I'm like 12 hours away from the United States, and yet I was able to find out about this on social media within minutes of the incident taking place. And we're all just, are we too connected? Are we, is this it? Uh, anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments below if you ever want to leave some. I in the past we still get some bot comments, which is kind of funny, but now we don't really get any. So yeah, if you have any thoughts, leave them down below in the comments. If not, doesn't matter. Check us out on Spotify. Let us know if you want any more conspiracy oriented content. I think it's good fun to sort of to ponder, to postulate. But of course, we'll always clarify that it is still a conspiracy. So let's, always stick to the facts and think critically. And yeah, that would be all for today's episode. And thank you. We'll see you next week, hopefully. Goodbye. Goodbye.